Let's go, Eagles. It's time to celebrate, because Howie Roseman just made a surprising move that has everyone buzzing. He signed a big-name player for the Eagles, and I can't wait to share all the details with you. But first, if you're a true Philadelphia Eagles fan, hit that like button. And if you're feeling extra enthusiastic, drop a comment like, "Go Eagles, let's make it to the Super Bowl." Supporting our team is what it's all about. Go Birds! Now, let's dive into the news. Our beloved team has just signed C.J. Gardner-Johnson, a player who truly represented the heart and spirit of our defense. In just 2 seasons, he became a leader and a fierce competitor, playing with undeniable confidence. But then, out of the blue, he was traded to the Houston Texans, leaving many fans in shock. Here's what happened. The Eagles traded Gardner-Johnson along with a 6th-round pick in 2026 to Houston in exchange for Kenyon Green and a 5th-round pick in 2026. Green, a former 1st-round pick, has had a tough start in the NFL and is currently one of the lowest-rated guards in the league. But here's the twist: he's now learning from Jeff Stoutland, the best offensive line coach in football. If anyone can help Green turn things around, it's Stoutland. But why would the Eagles trade a defensive leader for a struggling offensive lineman? This is where it gets intriguing. Shortly after the trade, C.J. Gardner-Johnson went live on Twitch and made a statement that caught everyone's attention. He said there's no bad blood between him and the Eagles, but he also hinted that players on that defense are going to need to get paid. This is important because the Eagles are preparing for some big contracts in the future for players like Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith, Reed Blankenship, and even recently re-signed veterans like Zach Cunningham and Quinyon Mitchell. Philadelphia is thinking ahead, making sure they have the budget to keep their young stars. But wait, there's more. Lane Johnson, the Eagles' veteran offensive tackle, tweeted something mysterious just minutes after the Gardner-Johnson trade was announced. His tweet, just 2 words, "Howie season," along with those famous eyeball emojis. Lane has been with the Eagles for over a decade, so he knows the front office and their strategies well. What does he know that we don't? Stay tuned, because this story is just getting started. There's a name that keeps popping up in trade talks: Trey Hendrickson. He's the standout pass rusher from the Cincinnati Bengals, and he's been given the green light to look for a trade. The Eagles are on the hunt for an elite edge rusher, and Hendrickson could be the perfect fit. Over the past 2 seasons, he's been one of the most reliable sack artists in the league, racking up an impressive 17 sacks. Plus, he's never missed a game during that time. At 30 years old, he still has plenty of top-level football left in him. Howie Roseman has built this Eagles team with a clear strategy: dominate the trenches. He loves investing in defensive linemen who can put pressure on the quarterback, which is exactly what helped the Eagles win the Super Bowl against the Chiefs just a few months ago. Hendrickson fits this mold perfectly. Here's the exciting part: he won't break the bank like Myles Garrett, who just signed a record-setting contract with the Cleveland Browns. While Hendrickson is due for a new deal, his price tag will be much more manageable compared to Garrett's whopping $40 million per year contract. With the recent trade of Gardner-Johnson freeing up some cap space, could the Eagles be setting themselves up for a big trade? If Howie Roseman pulls this off, it would send a strong message. The Eagles are all in once again. But that's not all. The Gardner-Johnson trade has left a hole at safety, with Reed Blankenship as the only confirmed starter. Could the Eagles be looking to bring in some veteran help? One name to keep an eye on is Justin Simmons. He's a 4-time All-Pro who was recently released by the Denver Broncos. Simmons has experience playing under Vic Fangio and defensive backs coach Christian Parker, both of whom are now in Philadelphia. In a recent interview, Simmons even mentioned that the Eagles are high on his list of potential teams in free agency. Now, let's be honest, Simmons isn't quite the player he was a few years ago. Last season with the Falcons was tough for him, and it might have been one of his worst years. However, he still managed to record 7 pass breakups and 2 interceptions. If the Eagles were to sign him, it wouldn't be to make him the star of the secondary. Instead, he would provide depth, leadership, and healthy competition for younger players like Sidney Brown. So, to recap, the Eagles are eyeing Trey Hendrickson for a potential trade, while also considering Justin Simmons to strengthen their secondary. Exciting times ahead for Eagles fans. The Eagles have traded C.J. Gardner-Johnson, creating some much-needed cap space. Lane Johnson is hinting that something big is on the horizon. Trey Hendrickson is available, and Justin Simmons sees Philadelphia as a top destination. All these pieces are falling into place for what could be another classic power move by Howie Roseman. So, Eagles fans, what do you think? Is Hendrickson the missing piece for our defense? Should we bring in Justin Simmons? Or is Howie planning something even bigger that we haven't even imagined yet? Share your thoughts in the comments and let's discuss. Now, here's where it gets even more exciting. If Howie Roseman really has a blockbuster move in the works, it wouldn't be the first time he's surprised the league. Remember, he's the same general manager who snagged A.J. Brown from the Titans, traded Carson Wentz for valuable draft picks, and built a Super Bowl winning team not once but twice with smart and bold moves. So why has Philadelphia been so quiet during the first 2 days of free agency? That's unusual. When a team is in win-now mode, especially after just winning a Super Bowl, you'd expect them to be making big moves. Instead, the Eagles have only made a few minor signings, and none of them have been major external additions. That's why Lane Johnson's tweet is so intriguing. If a team leader like Lane, who is in constant touch with Roseman and the front office, is hinting at something big, you can bet something is brewing. Let's circle back to Trey Hendrickson for a moment. If the Eagles do decide to trade for him, what would that look like? The Bengals aren't going to just give him away, but they do have some tough financial choices to make. They've already committed a lot of money to Joe Burrow, and key players like T. Higgins and Jamar Chase are also due for big contracts soon. The Bengals might be looking to offload Hendrickson's contract in exchange for future draft picks, and that's where the Eagles could step in. Philadelphia has been smart with their draft picks, and Roseman has always preferred trading for proven talent rather than taking chances in the draft. If the Eagles offered, say, a third-round pick and a future mid-round selection, that could be enough to seal the deal. Just imagine what adding Hendrickson would do for our defense. Teaming him up with Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat, and Jalen Carter would make the Eagles' pass rush even more formidable. But what if Howie isn't just focused on the defense? What if the Gardner-Johnson trade is part of a bigger plan to strengthen the offense as well? With Jason Kelce officially retiring, the Eagles now have a gap in the middle of their offensive line. Exciting times are ahead, and we can't wait to see what Howie has in store. Cam Jurgens is set to move over to center, but that still leaves some uncertainty at right guard. Yes, Kenyon Green was brought in through the trade, but is he really the solution? Or could there be another move on the horizon? One name to keep an eye on is Dalton Reisner. The former Broncos guard is still available and has been one of the most underrated offensive linemen in the league. He's tough, physical, and can play both guard positions. If the Eagles aren't completely convinced about Green, signing someone like Reisner would provide a solid backup plan while Stoutland works his magic on the young lineman. And here's another intriguing possibility. Derrick Henry. I know the Eagles just won a Super Bowl using a running back by committee approach, but if there's even a slight chance that Henry could be available for trade, how could you not consider it? The Titans seem to be heading in a new direction, and if Philadelphia wants to truly dominate in the trenches, pairing Derrick Henry with Jalen Hurts would create a nightmare for opposing defenses. Now, that might sound like a dream scenario, but one thing is for sure. Howie Roseman isn't finished yet. Whether it's Trey Hendrickson, Justin Simmons, another offensive lineman, or even a surprise name we haven't thought of yet, the Eagles are gearing up for something big. And that brings us back to you, the fans. What do you think is coming next? Is Hendrickson the missing piece for our defense? Should the Eagles focus more on strengthening the secondary, or do they have their sights set on an offensive weapon to support Jalen Hurts? Whatever it is, one thing is clear. When Howie Roseman is in Howie season mode, expect the unexpected. Share your thoughts below, Eagles fans, because this offseason is just getting started.